Give me like 10 of these and we're good. Good. Moving your body all around. Good. Play with the necklace, play with the hat. Good. Love that.
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. So in this video, I want to break down the differences between a professional photographer versus an amateur photographer, especially for those who are interested in fashion portraits. So if you're a model and you're looking to book a photographer, but you don't want to spend so much money wasting your time and all that with someone who's not as good, how do you know the difference? How do you know who's a really good photographer and who's going to deliver versus someone who's not going to deliver and just waste your time, take your money, and then you end up with images that you're not so happy with? So let's break it down, guys. So in this video, I want to tell you guys how to spot someone who's professional and who you should work with versus someone who you shouldn't work with. All right, guys, so one of the key differences to a professional photographer versus an amateur photographer is that a professional photographer would most of the time always have a website. Now, a website is really their main platform. This is where they host a lot of their work. And if you're really a professional should have a website with their contact details, with their portfolio and all of that, versus an amateur. Most amateur photographers would claim, oh, well, just look at my work on Instagram. Oh, I don't need a website, I have Instagram, just check that out. But if you're really a professional photographer booking real clients are not gonna look at your Instagram accounts. I mean, they might, but they also need to see a website and something polished. They want to see what publications you've been in. They want to see if you have media behind you, if you're represented, etc. So most of this information will be found on the website. So that's one way to distinguish it, is that a professional photographer most of the time always has a website. An amateur photographer has excuses and not a website. Another way to spot a professional photographer versus an amateur is that a professional photographer would never ever list their rates. So you're not going to find their rates on their Instagram accounts. You're not going to find their rates on their websites. They're going to ask you to contact them because they need a creative brief. They need to know what exactly you're trying to shoot, and they'll get back to you with a quote. Now, an amateur photographer would post their rates on Instagram. I've seen amateur photographers post rates saying, hey, I'm doing a 2-for-1 special right now, or I'm doing like a special Thanksgiving promotion for my photography. I'm shooting 2 headshots for $150, stuff like that. That's something that should raise a question mark when you're looking at photographers to use for your shoots. Another way to distinguish a professional photographer versus an amateur is their use of lighting. So professional photographers would always use flash equipment, and even if they're shooting outdoors, they still use flash equipment sometimes. Or if they don't use flash, they'll use a bounce board or stuff like that. So amateur photographers, they tend to shoot with nothing but just the camera. And a lot of times they claim, well, I like to shoot in natural light. I just want to shoot in natural light. Natural light works best for me. Or they go to a studio setup and they don't have any flash equipment, or they don't know how to use the flash equipment. And that's because there's a lot of training that goes into lighting techniques and learning how to use the flash properly and how to like get the right tone and shadows and all of that. So there's a lot of like training, intense training that photographers has to go through to learn how to really optimize those things. So amateur photographers are going to stay away from flash as much as possible. Professional photographers will welcome flash photography as much as possible. Another thing is that a professional photographer would have a set of prime lenses. And what I mean by prime lenses are like your 24 millimeters, your 50, your 85, etc. And most of the time you won't see a lot of professional photographers using zoom lenses. I mean, they might, depending on the situation, but they prefer to use prime lenses because the quality that you get out of prime lenses are just so much better. Amateur photographers only have one lens for the most part, and that's the lens that came with the camera, the manufacturer lens. They use this for everything. Whereas professional photographers, when you go on a shoot with them, you see them walking around with several lenses. Maybe they have like a bag where they host all their lenses, and they're changing their lenses constantly during the shoots because they're trying to get different angles, different perspectives, different depth of fields, etc. Now, when it comes to retouching, Professional photographers either retouch the pictures themselves or they send it to a professional retoucher or a retouch warehouse to retouch the pictures for them with some instructions and creative brief and all that. Amateur photographers do all the retouching themselves always. The key difference is that professional photographers would use professional software like Photoshop, Lightroom, Retouch Academy, whatnot. Amateur photographers like to use apps that you find on your mobile devices. Okay, another dead giveaway is that professional photographers always shoot camera raw. Now, camera raw, this is really the image in the highest quality without any compression, without any interpretation from the camera. Because when you shoot JPEGs, what happens is that the camera shoots raw, but your camera interprets the colors and the shadow and the lighting and all that, and really compresses all of that information and gives you a JPEG. But when you shoot raw, you're getting everything as is, and then it gives you the flexibility and creative freedom to adjust the exposure, adjust the color temperature, and all of that. So always ask your photographers like, hey, are you shooting raw or are you shooting JPEG? If they're shooting JPEG, then that's a dead giveaway, that's a red flag. You should not work with this person. Another dead giveaway is that professional photographers always will shoot in manual mode, while amateur photographers would shoot in auto. So a professional photographer would always love to work with a team. They prefer to have a stylist on the shoot. They like to have a makeup and a hair stylist as well, and also a photographer assistant. While an amateur photographer will prefer to work alone. They don't really suggest you having other people on the sets because one, maybe they don't know what they're doing or they're not so confident and they don't want other people to see their process. If you guys like this video, I always appreciate a thumbs up. If you have questions, feel free to hit me in the comment box down below. Always appreciate it, you guys. I'll see you guys in my next one.